After learning about the significant damage caused by Hurricane Helene in western North Carolina, Clinton Family Worship Center organized a donation site to begin collecting items for the victims. Thanks to the generosity of churches, organizations, businesses, and individuals across Sampson County and surrounding areas, over $100,000 in monetary donations was raised. With those funds and the physical items dropped off at our donation site, we were able to send 2 transfer trailer truckloads of supplies to those affected and support organizations and individuals in need of home repairs. Today, we're honored to share a video highlighting one of the incredible organizations we were able to support through your generosity.
Good evening, everyone. We welcome you tonight to the Beyond the Pew program. So glad that you're with us tonight because tonight we have something very special for you. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Jesselyn.
My name is Jesselyn Forsyth, and I'm from Boone, North Carolina, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you.
My name is Anita Neves, and I am from Lansing, North Carolina. Thank you for having us.
Well, you are certainly welcome. We've been working on this to get together to get an update to the people here in the community and Hurricane Helene relief, and a lot has been going on with you guys, and it's kind of a unique how I met this organization. Jesselyn and myself, I don't think it was accidental. I think, in my opinion, that God had a purpose, and I remember, Jesselyn, that I was walking the streets of Blowing Rock knowing that I was there to seek out somebody on who we could help. And I ran into a friend of yours, which we didn't know each other at this time. And I walked into one of the store. What was the name of the store?
Good Sports, I believe, downtown Blowing Rock, Dan Roberts.
Yeah. And it was kind of odd that I walked in and I introduced myself to him and told him my purpose, and there was no one in the store. And I says, I was wondering if you could lead me to somebody who went through a bad deal with the storm. And he mentioned you, gave me your number, and here we are.
And here we are.
Yeah, here we
glad
are.
for it.
And so I was able to get in contact with you, obviously, and met with your organizations. So for the audience that's watching, because we're actually giving them the update, I promised them that I would do this, and you guys have been working so diligently on getting the goods to the people. And so kind of introduce us to the program.
We are with High Country Caregivers. We are a nonprofit in the High Country. We serve 6 counties: Ashe, Wilkes, Watauga, Avery, Mitchell, and Yancey. We provide support to kinship care families. Most of our families are single grandmothers raising their grandchildren. And our goal is to keep those children with family instead of seeing them go into the system, because they do better when they are with family. We have better outcomes.
What specific services do you guys or programs do you provide to support the grandmothers year-round?
We have wrap groups that meet once a month. The caregivers, the grandparents, they meet at the same time the kids are meeting. And those are really good because grandparents, it's a time for them to talk and share and support each other. They can share ideas. When you first get children in your care as a grandparent, you think you're the only one. You don't really realize how many other people are in the same boat as you are. So it's really good to get that support. Right. And then you just kind of build a little community. And that's the same for the kids. The kids meet together, and they form friendships and bonds with other children who have been through similar situations and have been displaced from their parents. So where a lot of kids may get grief in school, they know that when they come there, they're with other children who are in the same boat, and they don't worry about any kind of criticism from their peers.
How do you identify the grandmothers that are in need?
So for HCC, I am their kinship navigator. That means I'm like their social worker. And so a lot of the times I will have referrals be sent in. So it could be from DSS, it could be from doctors, the schools, whatever that may be. So I will have the referrals sent in, and then I go in and I perform, the in-home assessment on them. And I figure out, kind of their living situation, what's going on in the home, if they take care of their grandchildren, full-time, 24/7. That's how I get them, and I navigate it from there and see what services that we are able to provide them.
Can you share a story on how your organization has impacted someone's life?
Day before yesterday, before I left the office, I was making my wellness calls, which I do the beginning of each month. And I'll carve out one day to call 3 counties, and the next day I'll call the other 3 counties. And so I was making my calls to Avery County, and I have one grandmother, and she said, I'm having a bad day. And I said, well, what's going on? And she said, my car, it just quit working on me. And so I said, well, hold your horses for a second. I think I might have, a resource there. So I did. I contacted them, and I was able to provide her a new car.
A new car?
Yes.
Wow. Just like that.
Yeah, and so it worked out so easy, and so that's what I also think that God had a purpose as well.
That is awesome. That is so great. The roles that you, Jesselyn and Anita, you guys play, what are some of the specific roles within the organization, Anita, that you play?
Well, I am the office manager. I try to stay in the office as a communication contact person. Jess may be out in the field doing an assessment. Nate may be working on pathways. We have Jacob, Marty. We're all working together on something at any given time. But I'm usually in the office as a contact person.
So I understand, Anita, that one time you were a person that needed an assistant. And how did that change your perspective to get into this organization?
Well, actually, about 4 years ago, I became the grandma raising the grandkids myself.
Gotcha.
I'm currently raising 3 of my grandchildren.
3?
3, ages 10, 9, and 6.
Wow.
As a grandmother who was ready to do different things and had my savings to do some traveling, things changed.
Yeah.
And all those plans that I had were put on hold, and I had to reprioritize everything. So as a grandmother who's getting the grandkids, you're overwhelmed because a lot of times when you get children, and this was, my case as well as the majority of others, it's harder to raise your grandchildren than it is your children, because when you raise your children, that's just normal. It's a normal household. But when you're raising your grandchildren, they are not what you would say normal. They're broken. Why didn't mommy or daddy want me? Why wasn't I good enough? And there's that struggle. Some of the kids have been abused. Some of them have just had their spirits broken. As a grandparent, it's hard when you have little ones that don't understand. And so not only are you trying to parent, you've got to deal with all these hurtful feelings and try to navigate them. You're never prepared for the questions that they ask.
I'm going to tell you, you may not know this, but the community that I reside in now, you just actually preached a sermon, because I deal with these type of issues on a weekly basis. Because we are experiencing in all communities children that are broken, and as well as yourself, where you're having to raise your grandchildren. And like you stated, you were ready to spread your wings again and fly, but now you're basically starting over. And you really just taught a lesson, because there are a lot of broken kids, and grandparents are having to pick up the pieces. I admire you for that.
And one of the biggest help to me was the support groups, the RAP groups, because I found out I was not alone. We talked about ideas, we shared ideas, what works, what doesn't work. There's also the sharing of, hey, here's a good counselor. It's just a great place to share and show support for each other. I did an addition to my house because I didn't honestly have room when I got the 3 children. So when I did an addition, I was living in a single wide mobile home. I had just downsized from a divorce. And one day, one of the kids came in, laid their work down on the kitchen table, which was like a round pedestal table, and the top of the table just fell off. And so when we went to the RAP group, the kinship navigator asked me, well, how was your day? And I just wasn't thinking, and I said, well, we got home, the table fell off, just another day, just another day. She said, so do you need a table? And I said, yes, I do need a table, but I need one a little bigger than what I had. And so weeks went by, and since I was remodeling, I didn't just go out and buy one, because I still had sheetrock dust and stuff. But one day I get a call, and she says, hey, did you find a table? We have one someone donated. And I said, really? And she said, I think it would be good, and it's just your size. So needless to say, that sits in my house, and we use it every single day.
Awesome.
And I'm thankful. Just the little things
That's right.
that they remember and they care. And when they would call and they would ask about the kids, how are you guys doing? It just means a lot to know that somebody cares enough to pick up the phone and call and check on you.
Jesselyn, what are some of the biggest challenges you have in this organization, and what are some of the rewarding things?
I would say the biggest challenge, since we do serve 6 counties and we serve, for example, Christmas Angels, we served, close to 300 children. And so I think one of the biggest difficulties for my position is making sure that everybody's needs are met. Because once, they're met, that means that I'm doing my job at the end of the day, and that means that these families are being supported and we're providing, relief for them. And so really making sure that whatever need that it is met, ultimately just to make sure that their household is functioning right.
Transitioning a little bit, let's talk about Hurricane Helene. What did you guys see, and what did you experience during the storm and after the storm?
Well, unfortunately, many people were homeless.
So let me interrupt you right here. They were homeless. The news reported that a lot of people were living and sleeping in tents. Is that an actual
Yes, they
fact?
were.
It was, even when it was very cold.
Yeah, many were sleeping in tents. Many have gotten campers, which have been donated across the high country. Some of our grandparents were actually staying in shelters when it happened. So we've tried to, get them back if their homes were not destroyed. Many of them were flooded. That's a big chore because the mold can set up, and that's very dangerous. So it's just been hard for families to take care of those things.
How do you feel where Western North Carolina is right now since the storm? Where are the mind of the people and the community? Where are they at right now? Are they rebuilding effectively?
We are still rebuilding. After Hurricane Helene, we're still picking up the pieces. Nothing is, back to what it was. And it won't be actually
Yeah.
for a long time. This will
agree.
be a process, probably up to a couple of years. And so, some of our grandparents are still picking up the pieces. And with that being said, for example, we had a storm that came in maybe a month or so ago, and some, power outages, became relevant again. And so we had some grandparents, still call us or ask if we, had any generators for them. So I just feel like it's still very scarring, and I hate to see, what everybody's going through.
Yeah, I know when the trips that we took up there, our communities in this county and surrounding counties, we were able to take 2 tractor trailer loads of goods. And we went into some of the communities before I actually got hooked up with you guys. And it was devastation just getting the tractor trailer load of stuff up on those mountains. And how did our church and our community impact your organization's effort?
Well, for one of the grandparents that we serve, she lives in Yancey County. And you all were able to help us remodel her basement because it got destroyed. And there was really bad mold and asbestos, and they live, you know, on the upstairs, and so it was starting to spread to the upstairs. They wouldn't have had anywhere to go if you all weren't able to step in and help us, help them remodel everything, provide them a new HVAC, get rid of flooring.
We repaired the oil furnace, filled up her oil barrel. We had to haul off multiple dump truckloads of debris from her basement.
I have been up
Ruined.
in the mountains a couple of times since the storm, and I still see debris laying on the side of the road where it haven't been picked up. And I don't want to take this off rail, but there was such, in my opinion, and I could be wrong, a misinformation. I don't know if it was misinformation, but some of the intel that I've gotten that during that storm that FEMA had not really made itself presentable. And based on my research and talking to some of the locals there, you know, there were so many red tapes for people to get help from FEMA. But I do believe a lot of the churches throughout the state and across the country, if it hadn't been for the churches and some organizations, we actually had a business here in Fayetteville that donated. It's a T-shirt apparel. His name is Tyler Hare. He sold T-shirts, and that's the business he's in, and he raised $70,000. So a lot of the businesses locally and abroad that if they had not helped out, I think the suffering would have been even more extensive based on the fact that maybe FEMA didn't get there as quick as they should. And so I'm grateful for the churches, and I'm sure your local churches were very active in that.
I feel like if it had not been for the churches and the folks in the community who have just opened their hearts and give out of love, that we would be much, much worse off than we are.
It's so important to have churches in our community. I often stated here, if this church here was no longer in existence, would people miss us? And I would hope they would, you know, what kind of impact that churches are making in our community. And storms like this, we have helped people. I remember when Houston had its flood back several years ago, and this community and this church headed up to get goods to go to Houston, and we were successful at it. But there was just something different this go around because it's our own state, I say my own people. And people constantly just kept bringing stuff without even us making a plea. It was just a constant people bringing things. They really wanted to help Western North Carolina. Now, beyond the disaster relief, what are some of the biggest ongoing needs for now grandmothers and families?
One of the biggest need, probably at this point, other than, you know, housing, is funding for things like the summer camps. One of the things that we do is we help cover fees like recreational fees. For example, most grandparents live on a fixed income. All they get is their Social Security check. It is hard for them to make ends meet when it's just them without children. So they are really stretching their dollars when they're raising their grandchildren. So we try to step in and help pay for sports fees. Coming up is spring sports, baseball, soccer. We pay for like dance lessons, piano lessons. We pay for counseling if necessary. If we can't find a counselor that accepts their insurance, then counseling is something that we help cover. And that's one of the biggest needs right now is a counselor, which we're working to find one for our organization.
What can people of faith do?
Well, first of all, they can pray. They can pray for our families, all the folks in the high country, Western North Carolina. Just pray for everyone that was impacted by Helene in one way or another. Especially what lays heavy on my heart is the children that lost their parents during the flood. we did pick up children in our program, and some of them watched their parents drown. And that is just so heartbreaking, and my heart goes out to them. So please pray for them, our entire community. As far as what you can do, there's always donating funds to help people get back into the homes. There's essential items that are needed still, and we're transitioning for the summer, so that just puts a little different spin on things.
I think going back to what I mentioned earlier, whenever we had that past recent storm and I had grandparents calling me and we were just talking, you know, just offering them a little bit of, you know, social support, just them saying, you know, my power cut out again, you know, and I recognize it's like they still have PTSD from Hurricane Helene. And so one of the things that I would really like to do is make sure that every caregiver in our program has a generator as well, just so they don't have to worry and they have something to fall back on. And we're still trying to work on that, grabbing, you know, each family a generator.
A lot of our older folks are on medical equipment like oxygen. Some use CPAPs. We have many kids with nebulizers. And during Helene, we had one grandparent who truly had to have the oxygen. So we worked with the Footprints Project and was able to install solar panels so that her oxygen would be able to continue to help her.
Well, before we conclude, let me ask both of you this, and I'll start with you, Jesselyn. How did the storm impact you personally?
Well, personally, at the time, I was going for my best friend's wedding, and we were staying up in Eagle's Nest, and so all of us got trapped up there.
Wow.
During the storm. We eventually made it down, and once I returned home, my property was damaged, and I had a tree on my house, and I had 3 rooms that flooded, and my driveway got, you know, completely taken away. But we were able to get through it with it, and I think the fact that I told myself, you know, things could be a lot worse. I could have lost everything. I could be homeless. I'm lucky at the end of the day to lay my head down on my pillow.
I remember the day I met Dan, and he was speaking to me about you. The goal was you had damage, and I was going to help you, or we were. And then when I asked you, you know, did you need any assistance, you said no. You had it under control, but here's this organization. So it kind of shows a humble heart that you had. You didn't abuse the system, you know.
A lot of people like to do that, don't they?
They do.
They do.
But you did not, so I compliment you on that, because you didn't know me from anybody, and here, strange person offering to help, and she turned it down. How did it impact you?
We had a lot of just rain, but thankfully nothing fell on my house. My house was fine. So as far as property damage there, we didn't have that kind of.
I have a little place there, which you know this, but we didn't have no damage. We had a little room in the downstairs area that had got the carpet wet, and some friends of mine went up there and took care of that. But we were able to open up our house for our community, and I had somebody to oversee it where they can go in and take shower. And the storm brought people together, not only in y'all's community, but even here. And I couldn't be no more proud, you know, of the people in our communities that did what they did for y'all's community, and we're still here. I want to go ahead and tell you that before you leave today, we're going to donate to you guys another $10,000, wherever you need for it to go, to help those grandmothers or whoever. So we're going to make sure you get that before you leave today.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're certainly welcome. Any last remarks you would like to make?
I am just overwhelmed with, you know, so much generosity has been shown to us and to our organization from, you know, not even surrounding counties, but surrounding states, Samaritan's Purse, you know, community partners. We've had so much, you know, love shown to us. And at the end of the day, I'm very grateful to be where I am. And thank you so much for having us.
You're certainly welcome, Anita.
And I just want to say again what Jess just said. The generosity of everyone is just, it's just been wonderful. And we thank you so much.
You're certainly welcome. And I know as things hopefully get back to normal, I don't want us to lose contact with each other. Jesselyn, thank you so much for being here today. You guys have come a long ways to be here. Anita, thank you so much. And we're just a phone call away. Let's don't lose contact, okay?
Never, no.
Never.
Thanks to the generous donations from the community, we were able to donate to the following: $45,000 to High Country Caregivers, $13,000 to Tabernacle Baptist, $2,100 in a bridge repair, $10,000 in a trailer repair, and $33,000 in hurricane relief supplies. For more information on High Country Caregivers and for ways to donate to this organization, visit highcountrycaregivers.org.